It was day 1 of my GYN rotation, and I was feeling fierce. Time to let the vagina warrior within me fly. When I was a pre-med college student, I lived with 5 other girls, all of whom were also pre-med or pre-dental. When playing the game of what type of doctor is everyone going to be, which happened frequently before our chemistry or physics finals to remind us of the end game of why we'd have to take those damn tests in the first place, I was unanimously declared gynecologist. My friends justified this by admitting how comfortable they would feel allowing me to examine them down there and divulge to me all of their sexual issues and pleasures. You could be the next Dr. Ruth or Dr. Oprah, but with sex. I'd smile coyly and think, maybe they'll be right. So it's the first day, and we're sitting in a classroom getting ready to pick numbers out of a hat that will determine our fate for the next 5 weeks. Gyne-onc or benign gyne, night shifts now or later in the rotation. I was ready to get those night shifts under my belt and get the true initiation to labor and delivery that I had been waiting for. I'd never seen the miracle of life firsthand, with the exception of standing in the corner of an operating room during a C-section like 6 years prior. I didn't get to stand at the table, and the only thing I remember is seeing a placenta being placed on this woman's belly and feeling slightly faint at the sight of seeing blood gush everywhere. Well, here I was, feeling brave with my vagal response slightly more under control, and I was ready for a labor renaissance. I show up for my first shift around 5 p.m. I'd forced myself to nap from about 1 to 4 that day so that I would be in tip-top shape to spend the night ushering life into the world. Not 5 minutes after walking into the call room and introducing myself as the medical student, a resident pulled me aside to teach me how to scrub, and not 5 minutes after that, I was standing at the table in the OR being grilled on the parts of the placenta. It was wild. And since it was my very first night on the service, I felt comfortable playing off my lack of knowledge with cutesy remarks like, "Whoa, this is the first and coolest placenta I have ever seen. Do people still eat these?" Night shift number 2 was a marathon of vaginal deliveries. After the first night of seeing what it was all about, acting as more of a spectator than anything else, I was ready to get up in there with the vaginal births. I counted with women, I pushed with women, I got to put my hands on a baby's head, and I even proudly cleaned up the products of Valsalva that no women are warned about or expected. And by products of Valsalva, what I really mean is, yep, you nailed it, they're poop. Here's a fun fact no one ever talks about. Nearly every single woman who has a vaginal delivery inevitably shits multiple times while pushing due to the sheer force required to get the fetus's head through the pelvic bones. And while some women are super cool with it, barely give it a second thought and focused on the task at hand, other women make it the freaking focus of their pushing experience. I felt another one. This is so embarrassing. I'm really sorry. They would say. I think it was somewhere around 4 a.m. when I finally shouted, "If you are not shitting, you are doing it wrong. Now push!" You know that childhood book, Everyone Poops? That teaches kids that it is normal and healthy to have a bowel movement? Well, I think someone needs to write that book for pregnant ladies and their partners. Because when you are pushing a 7-pound football out of your hoo-ha, it is freaking inevitable. Now, if you are sitting there listening to me thinking, "I am definitely having a C-section," or, "How will I ever find my partner sexy again after that?" you can rest assured, because 1, hopefully you will have a doting and ninja-fast medical student who cleans up the poop so fast you can forget it was ever there. And 2, soon enough you will have a freaking baby who is so cute and so tiny and who will poop way more than any laboring woman that your entire schema of poop will simply be rewritten. But I digress. By night shift number 3, I was really starting to get the hang of this labor and delivery thing. I was warming up with the team, we ordered milkshakes at like 2 a.m., and by 3 a.m. we were in the emergency department with a 20-year-old girl who was found to have a ruptured ectopic pregnancy and needed to be brought into the operating room stat for emergency surgery. When I met the patient, she looked like a little girl, no older than 17 or 18, and she was in unbearable pain. By the time I got to her, she'd been told that she was pregnant, but I was the one who had to break the news to her that this pregnancy would not result in a baby. This conversation really sobered me up from the adrenaline and the sugar high when I realized that had I, the medical student, not 3 days into her GYN rotation, not been present, I'm not sure that she would have known this information before heading into the OR and consenting to the procedure. While everyone else, the ED team and the OB-GYN team, was focused on getting her into surgery in this life-threatening situation, they had neglected to see how vulnerable and scared she was. She was here all alone, for Christ's sake, with an empty stomach and acute abdomen and only 20 years of life experience. I held her hand and she squeezed mine and she cried as we wheeled her into the OR. Somewhere in the midst of those 3 nights, I experienced something I can only think to call second-hand vagina trauma. Spending my waking hours with so many vaginas, repairing tears, using the uterine manipulator through the vagina of our 20-year-old with the ectopic, my relationship with my own vagina changed. Upon my recovery from nocturnal life, sleeping next to my boyfriend again, I found that I didn't want to be touched, that I had uncharacteristically lost my interest in sex or to have anything touch me down there. I felt asexual, like I just wanted to be left alone. I wasn't even remotely ready to shit myself or to push a 7-pound football out of my hoo-ha or to shepherd a life into this world that I couldn't just immediately hand back to someone who would love it unconditionally. Maybe OB-GYN wasn't for me. Maybe I wouldn't be the gynecologist that my college friends suspected. Well, eventually, my vagina and I recovered. Being a third-year medical student can make you feel all kinds of crazy things that you could never adequately anticipate. The best advice I can give is listen to your body, be there for your patients, and know how valuable you can be, even when you're just the medical student.